Howdy guys, I'm Jason Lewis, and this time in the AutoEdits garage, we're working on Large Marge, the 73 Mustang. And we'll be doing a little bit of maintenance here. Now this is something that if you guys are following me over there on AutoEdits Jason on Instagram, I would put a post up about pulling the transmission out to replace the throwout bearing. You guys asked how I did a hydraulic throwout bearing conversion on the T5. This is the Borg-Warner T5 that came with the 95 Mustang GT Cobra, specifically, engine and transmission that I stuffed into this car. That car had what was the clutch worked on that car from the factory with a manual or manual clutch. So it had an actual arm that went into the bell housing and it operated the throwout bearing off of a fork. And that's a very traditional style clutch setup. And so what I did when I put this in here, now there isn't a direct kit, just so you know right now, for this to convert this over to a hydraulic clutch. So what I found was the McLeod unit here. So I got the McLeod hydraulic throwout bearing here. It was a pretty cool looking thing. I went with McLeod clutch. This thing's starting to pee on me a little bit here, and that is the problem. That's why it's coming out, is unfortunately this thing failed on me. I have about 6,000 miles on this thing. I can't even believe I have put that many miles on this. It's been amazing. And this has been a good learning experience of how good this platform is turning out to be. Even though the thing is still a rattle trap interior-wise, I have no interior or anything in it yet, it's so much fun. I've put a ton of miles onto it. And then what ended up failing on the McLeod throwout bearing is this right here sits on the shaft, where that one with the fork moves like this one just sits there, and then it uses the hydraulic hoses to keep it from spinning, from rotating on the pilot shaft there. And well, what happened was it just ruined this fitting into here, because I'm guessing it actually just stressed that from holding itself in place, and it puked itself out into the driveway, and it's non-operational anymore. So this is probably fine. It all leaks from here, and you fill the master cylinder and it just leaks everything out. So how we're gonna fix that is I went and did a little bit of online research, and I found Tilton, and this is the 6000 series hydraulic throwout bearing, and this one specifically for Ford, for the T5s and T56s and things like that, is part number 6104, and that's this guy right here. And the only real difference, obviously there's whatever their proprietary design is. The thing that I think is going to be the home run for this application is that it comes with this dowel pin that bolts right into the case here, and that now as you slide this on, it clocks the throwout bearing in place and doesn't use the actual hydraulic hoses here to keep it from spinning. It actually has a pin here to keep it from spinning. Now obviously it doesn't need that much force, but that's a big deal. That's going to be the answer for us in this particular application. Now let me show you guys what I've had to do to even make this work, because there still isn't anything, for some reason, this year or era of the T5 in the Mustang application has a really deep bell housing and a really deep reach into the clutch. So all of these things have adjustable collars to get the throwout bearing to sit at the right spot to activate the diaphragm on the clutch pressure plate. So you have to do some measurements. I'll show you that in a minute. Now even this one doesn't have the reach that we need to get this done. So what I did here, and I'll put links in the description to how I do this, but this is what you're going to do your measurements, then you have to figure out how to get this to the right point. Now the instructions tell you how to measure and do all this stuff, but you measure from the fingers on the release plate on the diaphragm to the bell housing, and then from the mount where the bell housing goes out to where this thing goes to the throwout bearing goes. In this case, this is going to be different, I think, for every car. 4.475. So I went ahead and you adjust it by doing this guy right here. Now Even the Tilton one here only has 3.5 inches worth of adjustment by using the collar here. So you could either have to order another one of these collars, but what I did was I just took the one out of my McLeod, put it on here, and then incorporated that into my measurement. So that means I actually only have to have this thing adjusted to right there. I just have a little cheater line there to give me my adjustment. And what you got to kind of watch out for is that, so this will just fit right onto there, and then we'll clock that onto that little dowel here to keep it from moving, and you'll see how that works. And then the basics of this is, I'll show you how to bleed this in a minute, is that you have your pressure line that's always on the bottom. Now these are interchangeable, it doesn't matter, just the pressure, the feed line has to be on the bottom and the bleed line has to be on the top because the air goes up, okay? No duh, seems to work perfect. And then that's it. So let's just double check our measurements while we're here. We would just put a straight edge right on across the throwout bearing here, just make sure that it's sitting as flush as it's gonna be. And then we'll take a measurement from the mounting flange, and to the best of our ability, I'm at 4.475. There's a small tolerance for error there. Got that adjusted just about right. And that will be ready to install. And then you'll just double check that. I'll show you, we'll do a visual on that once we get it inside the Mustang transmission bell housing. Now there's some other things to take into account when you're doing the hydraulic clutch conversion. There's all kinds of documentation and instructions on the Wilwood to give you some different things to take into account. Pedal stroke, what type of pedal, master cylinder, all of those things come into account. I'm running on this one a 3/4 inch master cylinder from Wilwood with their hanging pedal mount on that one. And I don't remember offhand, they have like all of the smart guy stuff, like the pedal swing ratio and all of that stuff. But the important things to remember, get the right master cylinder, and then to make sure that you get a pedal stop so that your pedal doesn't overstroke and push overextend the throwout bearing here. So those are some of the things to keep in mind. But so for now, this is it. We're gonna stuff this in, and then we'll bleed it, and we'll get a look at what it looks like inside there. Now I swapped in this floor jack to give me some room, and I want to take a minute to showcase this little piece right here. This is from American Powertrain, and it actually worked so surprisingly well at this swap. It really just made this a bolt-in to the older Mustang. So I have the T5 with this amount, and all of this just made this, you can see it just goes right in. Now that I could reach these bottom bolts, I could put these in since the upper ones are in fairly secure already. Yeah, this doesn't always go this easy. I'll take it though. All right, so I have the bottom kind of buttoned up for now, so it's time to go ahead and fill the reservoir, the clutch reservoir. And I did some videos, you guys can go back and watch those, on the clutch pedal assembly that I put in here by Wilwood. I'm really, really happy. And to be honest, I actually really love the feel of the hydraulic clutch in this thing. It made this such a joy to drive around town. If you watch the Death Valley video and even the test drive video, the thing is just so comfortable and effortless to drive. So having that is definitely a huge improvement to the driving characteristics of the vehicle. Is it worth the, like if you're all in, the Tilton throwout bearing, that extra spacer that I recommend you get for this particular application was 40 bucks. You're in it for about $390 for that. That's not even including the master cylinder up here and clutch pedal that you would have to hang to do that if you were converting from a non-hydraulic clutch. So it's pricey, and it was something that I was really just into doing. I love having that pedal assembly because it offered a ton of flexibility and adjustabilities. So now for brake fluid for this, I'm going to be using the Lucas .3 brake fluid. You could use .3 or 4. You just can't use .5 because it's silicone based. Make sure everything's clean and ready to go. We'll go ahead and fill this thing up. And it's also important to note at this moment don't use brake fluid that's been sitting around for a long time. It tends to grab water out of the air, so that's why it's not a good idea to put one of these on a shelf and just store it for a year or so, and then you grab it and use it again. It's just not ideal. So I'm liking getting the smaller bottles, using them up, and then digging from that for the next. So let's start the bleeding process. Okay, so I have my lovely assistant inside to help pump the clutch as we bleed it. We have it air or gravity bled as much as we can. And we have a decent pedal. Go ahead and pump the pedal a few times, please. All right, I see the actuator moving. Okay, great, pump and hold. And then we'll just come in and do a little, and that's it. I didn't see any air. Pump a few more times. How's it feel?
Very good.
It looks great. Yeah, I don't think we need to do any more. Okay, great. I'm gonna tighten this up. There you have it. One of the things I gotta take a minute to just appreciate is that the underside of the Mustang is looking really, really good. For a car that has 6,000 miles, you guys, some of you have been along for the ride as we built it right here in the garage. A lot of the components worked. The exhaust was a piece of cake to get off in one piece to get at this. You know, just everything looks good. And I was priding myself on the fact that there was no leaks, except for that darn clutch cylinder. So this is nice. I mean, here's a quick tour of the underside. We got the drive shaft put back in. Everything looks good. Here's the rear suspension, how everything looks up there. Just thought I'd give you guys a quick tour of how everything's looking under here after a few thousand miles. Everything just looks great, and boy, I've driven the heck out of it. I'm really pleased, really pleased with it so far. Darn, I was commenting on the social medias the other day, like, the car just drives so good that I think I'm afraid I'm gonna have to finish it one of these days and make it nice on the inside, because it deserves it. It's that good to drive. All right, so we have the thing bled, everything looks good. I have a camera down inside there to give you an idea of what it looks like as it's actuating the actual fingers of the release on the clutch plate, and looks and feels pretty good. It's a little stiffer, so obviously the ratio, the 3/4 inch Wilwood master cylinder is a little bit different to the McLeod throwout bearing, but it's still very pleasant clutch. Feels very good. So everything is great. I think it's time to get this thing back on the ground and out driving. Got lots more to do. I just wanted to get this thing done. I just love being able to jump in this at any time and drive. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, enjoy your drive. I'm gonna need to put, there's my steering wheel. I'm gonna put that on before we get this thing back on the ground and driving. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.